welcome back to the Candy Kingdom with Lace and Misty. The Candy Kingdom is a podcast for littles and bigs, where we provide resources and support and a safe space to learn together. So sit back, grab your sippy, stuffy and patsy, and let's play! Hi everyone, welcome back to the Candy Kingdom with Lace and Misty. Thanks for tuning in. We've got lots of fun stuff in store today. Today we're going to be finishing our mini-series on vetting a caregiver and the steps we encourage you to take when negotiating a new dynamic with a potential CG. We're going to skip the news this week because not much has happened in the last sort of half an hour. So let's just jump straight back into where we'll pick up from where we left off. So Misty, why don't you get us started?
Well, before we get started, we are going to be announcing the winner of the giveaway and drawing that right at the end of the episode. So stay tuned to find out if you won our very first giveaway. Woo! So exciting. Thank you for everyone, to everyone who entered.
Yes.
So where we last left off, we spoke about, asking about past relationships.
Yep.
Now we're getting into the fun stuff. Yes. So about your control and your power exchange. How are you going to build a dynamic? So first question is, why do you want to be in this dynamic? Mm-hmm. So we've got some warnings. So littles, you need to be careful about power-hungry caregivers who don't care about your needs. They're all about what they want and what they need and what you can do for them.
And a lot of the time, that's what gratifies them sexually too.
Yeah. And then caregivers, you need to be aware of littles that just want someone to fix them. They don't have their stuff together and they're just, I need a daddy to help me get my life together, which isn't fair to anyone. I mean, kudos to you.
Which is different to, I want a daddy who can help me with my goals and achieving them.
Yeah. So that's very specific, whereas asking someone to fix whatever's going on with you, it's a massive role and a massive task. And a lot of times that includes areas that one person is not equipped to fulfill. So I know some caregivers who have, kind of felt really discouraged because those are the types of littles that they kept kind of running into who weren't actually littles, but just people who needed help and needed more help than a partner could give.
Skill.
Yeah. And actually what they needed was, psychological help and a whole support system to get their stuff together. So yeah, that's really important. And
that's okay for you to say, I can't do that. It's not in my scope to do that. I'm not a trained psychologist. And if you are, this is your relationship. You don't want to be doing your job at home.
No, you do not. Yeah, so that's really important. Then you have to think about, where does your power exchange take place? So for some people, it's only in certain times, it's only in the bedroom. It's only when you meet together in a specific, you set aside time to slip into your roles. Whereas some people, they want to be in that power exchange all the time.
Yeah.
And you also want to negotiate, who has the power, because you can't just assume that you're a caregiver, you're going to have the power in the situation, you're going to have the control, or you're a little, you're going to be giving up the power and you're going to be giving up the control. Because like I said in another episode, I think, that there is a little dom that I've been talking to, which I find so cool.
I am so into that. I cannot wait to get to know them more, because that is the coolest concept.
Exactly. So I think, you have to, don't assume anything, because that's how you make an ass out of you and me. Ask them, what is their role? What do they find the most fulfilling about their role? Because that answer kind of gives you an overview of where their priorities lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if they say, I like being able to have sex whenever I want, I mean, I don't think anyone would kind of be that blatant, but you never know. So, that's kind of that's not really where my priorities lie. So that's really important. And then talk about what areas are you willing to give up and take control in, and why. Like, what's your previous experience with this role, and what appeals to you about it, and why would you be good at taking control in those areas?
In that area. Yep.
Did you have anything else to add, Lace, to that one?
I think as long as this is I think the point for me that's the most important is it going to be 24/7 or is it going to be just in protocol, and what are the limits of those
expectations?
Times? Yeah, that's a really important one to me, because sometimes I'm, not ready to do that. I might need a bit of my own to be able to just, be like, no, I need to make my own decisions just for a bit, give myself the control back, just so I don't get lost in little space, because that can happen. Yeah. That's the only warning I would give about that.
And just to be realistic as well about, what areas they can take control in. And, you don't want to be giving someone 100% control of, like, your finances, because God forbid something happens to them. Or, like, I wouldn't be having this person, make my career decisions for me. Yeah. Because I went to school for this, and I'm the expert in that area. So,
but that goes back to, I think, to what we were talking about a few weeks ago when we were discussing when we were setting up the personal questions that we were asking about what we want to do in the dynamic, and one of them was, how much power are you willing to give? So I think, it's important to know you don't have to give everything. You can still have a really fulfilling power exchange where you still have some control of your own life. That's important, though, as well.
I agree. That's what makes it healthy as well. This one's really important. What are some mistakes you've made previously? If they say, I've never made a mistake,
run away.
Run away, because everyone's made a mistake in their life, and it's just part of learning. So then you want to know what the mistakes are, what happened, how did they handle that situation? And some mistakes can be as small as, not having put a towel down when you're engaging in wax play, and now you have to peel wax off all of the furniture that you were laying on, or they could be as serious. Yeah, exactly. Or they could be as serious as, they didn't hear their person's safe word the first time that they did. And then the person said to them, I safe worded already. Like, what, did they get defensive? Were they apologetic? Like, what steps did they then make to make sure that doesn't happen again?
I think the hallmark of a really strong caregiver is one that can apologize and say, I made the mistake, I was being defensive, I shouldn't have done that, these are the steps I'm going to take to make sure that doesn't happen again.
And then they actually do take those steps as well.
Yeah. And what can I do if they've done a serious oopsie? What can I do to make it up to you?
How can I rebuild that trust, basically? That's what they want to do. They want to acknowledge that, they've done something that's, broken your trust a little bit, and how can they make you feel safe and trust them again?
Yep.
And that goes back to how you learned from these different things. So do you have anything else to include in the power exchange side of things?
No,
and negotiating that?
I think as long as you're really thoughtful with your caregiver a little about what the reality of what it's going to look like is. Don't just go in with, this is what I hope for. Or if you don't know if it's a first experience, then make sure you set up checkpoints to sit back and do a meta talk about this afterwards and be like, okay, what do we think about this? Is this working? How do you feel about that? And give your partner an opportunity to respond, and don't take offense to that, and, negotiate continuously, because power exchange can fluctuate. And it's an organic part of power exchange. If you're expecting to have, particularly from a CG perspective, if you expect to have 100% power of your CG, of your little all the time, then that's unrealistic. And getting mad at them when they pull away or feeling as though they've let you down or they're not holding up their end of the bargain is unrealistic. So, that's probably my final point.
Okay. No, that's a valid point. I think that's really important as well. Moving on to kink experience, something that we want to know is, like, have you been lucky enough to have a mentor?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
That is really exciting. If you find a gem who has been mentored, make sure they actually have been mentored and speak to their mentor. Oh my goodness.
Mentor.
Yes, thank you. Speak to their mentor, and
And who is their mentor? Why is it valuable that they were mentored by this person?
Exactly. Find out
what's
their
the
reputation
mentor standing in the community as well.
Exactly, and what are their credentials? It's not just Bobby Joe off the internet. Like, who are they?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then mentorship is important because it's like where the foundations come from, essentially. How long have you been in the scene for? That's important. Some people are going to be green. We were all green once, but...
Yeah. But that being said, just because someone's been in kink for a long time, and actually I find those that say, oh, I've been in kink for billions of years, can often be the ones that are quite problematic, because what they're saying is, I know my opinion, and because I've been around long enough to form that opinion, I'm not going to be swayed on it. And we're all
very
always
rigid.
learning. Yeah. If they're going to be rigid and use their clout of, I've been in the kink scene for this much amount of time, it's like, okay, so what? Your actions speak louder than your presence. Like, there's no, I don't really put a lot of stock in tenure, because I think, like, what could have happened in those 20 years? You could have been practicing bad kink the whole time.
Exactly.
So,
And just being in a space doesn't mean you're actually learning. Like, it's not osmosis. You don't just show up and, like, learn stuff because it gets filtered.
The Matrix kink. We just get plugged in. Gooddaddy.exe downloaded.
I love that so much. I feel like I'm going to use that all the time now. So, and then how did you find out about the kink? Like, I just think this is kind of fun, and just having those, like, origin stories. Like, how on earth did you get into being called daddy or being called little girl? Where did that come from?
Because it's such a taboo thing. And I think it's such a funny revelation once you get there. You're like, oh my God, I'm so relieved. But it's like, you have to get past the social stigma, which you innately carry around with you anyway before you get involved in it. So it's always, I agree. It's always a really fun, cute story of, like, how did you realize that you were little or big or whatever. So, it's cute. I like it.
We want to ask you about references as well. This doesn't have to be like a super formal situation, because we know that it's not always realistic for someone to, like, it's not an actual job where, you have your previous references. But even if you can point to, or if they can point to reputable people in the community who know that they practice safely, and then those people practice safely as well. Like, the kink community is very self-regulating, and we have to be the ones that kind of call out bad behavior on our own. There is no external, kink board that we can take complaints to. So
it'd be so helpful if there was. Holy
I know,
shit.
Right?
I
don't know how that.
Life would be a much safer place if they actually had TOUs that were supporting victims. But anyway, let's not get political.
We always do, don't we? We did it last episode. I'm proud of us.
I know. We didn't mention in socialism or capitalism was.
Anyway, so and then find out if they are involved in their community. If if they're not involved locally, which isn't realistic for some people because they live in Whoop Whoop,
or they have jobs where they can't be public.
True.
Yeah.
And are they involved in their online community? And can they show you their online community to make sure that it's a safe one with good practices, like not involving minors in kink, or making sure that you're using guidelines, or vetting people, things like that. So, and there are some valid reasons why people are involved in their local communities. There might be a really toxic community, but you can also find that out for yourself.
And I
encourage you
to, because if a dom is like, oh, I'm not involved in FetLife or the local community because everyone there's so blah 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 and stupid and how much of that is is
True.
actually true and how much of that is just you didn't get your way and a few people called you out on it.
Yeah, and you had to remove yourself because people were actually calling you out for being unsafe, and you couldn't get away with.
Or you were removed.
So that's important as well. Next point. Are you willing to learn from your partner?
Oh. And are you willing to learn from your partner if they are submissive? This is absolutely huge. The amount of D-types that I come across that are like, either have an uncomfortability with or feel like they can't learn from submissives, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. Because you think about it logically, who's going to know themselves better than that sub? You know, you might have all of the skill sets and know how to be a good D-type in theory or understand the components that make D-types sort of like generally, but you have to be able to apply that to your situation, and your sub is the best person to tell you about them and how they're going to respond to these things. The subs aren't just hopeless people that don't know what they're, don't know anything about themselves. They probably are quite introspective and can tell you if you just take the time to ask them.
Well, they're giving up control, aren't they? Which means that they have the control in the first place.
Exactly.
So you need to go to them to learn about them. And we're not cookie cutters. What works for one submissive may not work for the other one. So, for example, I hate being told good girl.
Really?
Yes, I cannot stand it. Lots of dominants are immediately like, I had to tell my last dominant, I said, I don't like it. And he was like, oh no, that's like one of my staple like pieces of praise. But to me, it's just generic. I don't know why it makes me uncomfortable, but I just don't have a positive reaction towards it. So I react more positively to, I'm proud of you for, and you list what it is. I think to me, good girl is just too much of a throwaway. So I like.
Whereas I love it. I love it. It's my bread and butter. I'm just about it. It gives me the wiggly toes. I just feel a little bit
love
like
the wiggly toes.
I know.
Such a innocent way of being like, yay, the things are happening.
Woo, I'm aroused.
I was thinking I'm happy, but okay, Lace.
Oh, no. It's fine. Well, it doesn't matter. Be good. I'm not going to be ashamed about this. But no, that's really valuable is learn from your submissive, listen to them. And also, if you're inexperienced and your sub somehow is taking a chance on you because they've got lots of experience, go to them. They are the expert in this situation. Have a meta talk. Say, yo, I need to talk to you about something and I don't know how to handle this. And then they can go back into their usual vanilla self and be like, yo, let's talk about this. And
I promise that it's not going to lose their respect or make you think of being like as not as dominant or whatever. Like
it'll actually improve it.
It
100%.
will, because it's like, oh my God, look, he cares about me enough to consult me in these decisions, and then he's going to go ahead and do those decisions anyway.
And
respects
respects me in my position and what I know enough to consult me, I think is also a huge thing. Because even though you're submissive, there's a difference between being submissive and being equal. A person can be submissive to you and give you total power, but still be an equal in relationship. In fact, that's actually how it is a lot of the time, and how it should be, in my opinion, in kink.
I agree.
Just because someone's beneath you in terms of hierarchy doesn't mean that they are not equal in the relationship. And I would go as far as saying that in a CGL dynamic, the little actually has to have the overriding control. Someone explained it really well. They said, the little will give me the picture. I can color any color I want. I can make the grass red and the sky yellow, and I can, use textures or crayons and stickers, but I must not go outside those lines.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I like that analogy as well.
Yeah. I think that really highlights for me the duality of being submissive but also in control. It's a very interesting dynamic.
I know. I love it. And it clears up some misconceptions that vanillas have, and the people who have unfortunately read 50 Shades of Grey and, use that as their, picture of what BDSM is. So, we want to make sure that we're doing good things and representing ourselves well so that other people know that this is a healthy dynamic, and it's just different. Yeah. So then we also want to talk about, what are these person's wants and needs? And we need to differentiate between a want and a need. So you want to know, how did they figure out what was a need and what was a want? So like a need for me is constant. I've probably mentioned it before, but a need for me is constant communication, like in some form throughout the day, texting. But a want for me is getting a phone call every day. So like, I don't need a phone call every day, but it would be nice if I got one, whereas I need some form of communication the whole day.
That's a really good way to distinguish the two.
Yeah. And then we haven't put this down, but also like, what is their hierarchy? Or do they know about the hierarchy, which is submissive's needs, dom's needs, dom's wants, submissive's wants. Okay. Yeah. So that's an important thing as well. And I really like that graphic. I'll see if we can get a link to it. It just helps to remember, or like a post that explains a little bit more about that as well. Because we're trying to be a bit more brief, because we've got a lot to cover still. Because vetting is so important, and we want to make sure that we do this justice. So moving on, or did you have anything else to say about kink experience?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, so moving on to the actual caregiver little side. I really like this first point. You want to go ahead?
What is your aesthetic? What do you like? Do you want a kitten? Do you want ADBL? Are you super into certain animal types like pet play? What do you like? What are you into? Do you like a grungy little? Do you like a more kind of pastel daddy, or pastel mummy, or pastel caregiver? Or what are you into? What makes you be like, oh, this is me?
So if you think about it, just imagine like your perfect CGL photo shoot. What would you want to see in that photo shoot? Like, what images are you coveting when you're on Instagram and you're like, oh my God, I love that so much. And like, that's fun. Like, do you want your caregiver to be, all dressed up in like a teacher costume, but like looking like a teacher? Or do you want like a soft, like, I would love it if my mommy wore like an apron or something. Or like just like with a cute little dress on, like, but some people would want their mommy to look more masculine and wear, that's also kind of hot. So,
mummies who like to be called daddies.
Yes, such an
oh my God.
Wiggle toes. Yes.
Reward system. So I find that littles really thrive on rewards more so than punishments. Recognizing, this is me in particular, I don't do very well with being told I've done something wrong. I prefer, hey, let's talk about this. This is what you've done. But when I do something good, reward in a particular way that responds to my love language. I think overall littles tend to respond better to that. They don't so much like the punishments, but they do need to be pulled into line. That for me is the huge difference between a submissive and a little, but that's my opinion.
Well, some of these dynamics don't have punishments or consequences at all. It's just let's sit down, like in a like, you don't necessarily have to discipline children when they've done something wrong, and that's kind of what this dynamic mimics in a way, like that kind of parental dynamic. So, like if it's just, you need a stern talking to and about what you can do better next time and that kind of stuff. Yep. Whereas I like a punishment.
Well, but
it makes me feel good. Yeah, I know. It doesn't have to be pain related. Like, even just writing 25 lines, I was like, this sucks. But it was like, oh, thank you for like making
caring
me do
enough.
this.
Thank you for caring enough to see this through. I'm a firm believer in punishment. So this is the idea of, particularly because you hear it a lot. If I can't, if spanking isn't a punishment to you, if pain isn't a punishment to you, how can I incorporate that into the dynamic? And the answer is punishment. You get the spanks or the caning or whatever physical kind of sensation you want as a reward for doing something good. And I think it's all about the intent. You can punish with spanks and reward with spanks, and you can do that at the same time. But as long as you set it out and say, this is why I'm doing this right now. And your language and a lot of the time, I think, if you were to be punished with a spank, it would be rigid. It would be, you're in trouble, and it would be really non-sexualized at all. Then if it was a spank for reward, it's like, there's a lot of feeling and passion involved in it, and it's really like, it's
kind of like
the intent
foreplay.
is there. Yeah, for real. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just added this point, but moving on from rewards, how does your person feel about topping from the bottom? Okay. Mm-hmm. So there are people, or like bratty behavior. So there are lots of littles who are also brats. But their caregiver needs to consent to that behavior. And I think that's a lot of what doesn't get addressed. A lot of brats are just like, well, that's just how I am. But it's equivalent to a sadist just walking into a room and spanking someone. That person hasn't consented to that. They've gone, what is happening here?
And to understand what topping from the bottom is, for those that don't know, it's essentially, and I'm looking at it from a negative spin, I'm sure if it was done smart, it could be okay. But for me, it's when a little manipulates their big to get the outcome that they want, but from within the little space.
Yeah.
And
not using their words and communicating, not respecting the dynamic that they've negotiated, which is where the caregiver makes the decisions.
And pushing boundaries that shouldn't be pushed or have otherwise been specified to not be pushed. And setting up situations, setting the caregiver up, basically. It's manipulation. It is really easy to slip into if you're not serious about your power exchange. There doesn't have to be a power exchange. You don't need to have one. If you don't want one, specify that. Don't just say you'll have one and then not have one just so you can get into the dynamic with someone. That's not fair.
And it's okay to think that you want one and then you're in it and you're like, ooh, actually, this isn't making me happy and I do prefer to get my own way. Then
as long as it's genuine.
Yeah, and then you need to just renegotiate that. That's okay too, but we don't want to force people into doing things that they don't want to do because it's just icky and gross.
And I feel like this is a big issue because for the littles that get into it and they, whoa, this is a lot more than I thought it was, and then they want to negotiate their way out of that, that might be the end of the dynamic because a lot of caregivers want that power. That's the point. Yeah. That's what they're in it for. It's a huge part of CGL. It doesn't have to be, but for the most part it is. And if you then top from the bottom, that's a huge undermining. It's a hugely disrespectful thing. It basically is saying to the caregiver, I don't trust that you know what you're doing. Yeah. And what's the point of being with them if you don't?
Yeah. And there's playful bratty behavior, and I don't really necessarily think that all brats top from the bottom.
No. But the predisposition to do so is there.
Yeah, exactly. So we just wanted to touch on that as well, and just make sure that the person is okay with like bratty behavior and how far does it go, and you could probably negotiate some type of safe word on their part where they're done with you. Pushing the boundaries, and it's
or
okay.
A key phrase that is like you need to stop. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. That's a great idea, actually.
Yeah. And it could be fun too to do that. All right. So then we're on to what types of rules you're going to have. We want to make sure that we're setting up healthy rules. I see a lot of stuff, people coming to other bloggers. My submissive has an eating disorder and I want to make a rule about her eating a certain amount of calories or something like that. Like that is not, you're not equipped to handle that. That is a mental health issue. And I can see where you're thinking it's going to be a good rule from, but it might actually be enabling that behavior instead of trying to help it. So I think that's important.
It might be also contradicting the advice of their medical specialist.
Exactly.
So don't do that either.
Yes.
And don't be hard and fast on it. Like, eating disorders are huge. You can, like, they're a massive mental, complex, layered condition. And to just think that you can
Dom it away.
Dom it away. Don't expect, like, I do not like it when doms come into a relationship or a caregiver with the caregivers, doms, little subs, anybody come into a relationship with the expectation that relationship, I can fix them. It's like, absolutely no. You are supposed to be an extra in my life. You're supposed to make my life have all those little extra fluffy things. Yeah, enhanced it. It's not within your scope. It's not within the relationship scope to change me fundamentally. And I feel like eating disorders are a big thing that requires specialist care, not just somebody controlling the way that you behave. That doesn't work. It won't fix it. And it shows a real narrow-sighted, short-sighted mindset about people and your understanding of people and conditions and how these things work. It riles me up.
That's fair. It's honestly a serious issue. So I think, we should address it. I also see people, like, trying to tell their littles how they should and shouldn't feel. I saw that the other day. Oh, my God, it made me so upset. It was like, I must not be sad when daddy leaves. They had a punishment that they had to write out. And I was like, what on earth? How
I'm allowed to have feelings. Exactly. If I didn't care that you were leaving, I wouldn't care that you were there in the first place.
Exactly. So that's not okay. Anyway, so I guess, listen to their response about the type of rules that they would want to enact and kind of ask them why they would want those rules, because their reasoning can tell you if the rules are something that's safe, pretty much.
But provided that the rules are rules that are, and look, for me, the type of rules that I think are really just harmless, or not harmless, but like are really safe rules are things like, this wouldn't work for me particularly, but no swearing. There's no way I can do that. But observe your bedtime. Eat healthy food and drink lots of water and don't skip meals if they don't have a eating disorder or a pre-existing condition. If you're feeling down or sad, talk to your caregiver. Show a selection of outfits if you've decided that that's what you're going to do. Let me see what you're going to wear. Exercise. So if you've said, my goal is I want to exercise more, okay, well, you need to walk 15 minutes a day. Or if your caregiver upsets them, please talk to them. Only one treat a day. Call them on the phone at least once a day. Lots of reasonable things. And
that are made in consultation as well, and that address some type of goal. Even if it's the caregiver's goal, that, their goal is that they want to control your outfit choices or they want you to dress a certain way, then, that's a rule about you sending them your outfits or them choosing. So, stuff like that.
What I like, this next point, and that I love, is how heavily are these rules going to be enforced?
And how hands-on will you be about
and how are you going to enforce them? Because
that's so good.
Yeah.
Please tell me how you're going to pull me up, because that is how I know you care. Anyway, so then we've also got some stuff about, what types of punishments or consequences are you comfortable receiving and giving? So, some people can't stand, or handle corner time because it digs into, like, they
emotional isolation.
Yeah, and they just sit there and beat themselves up, whereas some other type of punishment is okay for them, like having their mouth washed out with soap or writing lines and all that kind of stuff.
I won't be doing that. Absolutely not.
Well, some people might like it. Honestly, I think I came across a resource that had lots of different ideas for punishments for this
Try and find that if you can, and we'll put that in the notes, because that's really valuable.
Yeah, I will do my best to try to find it.
So moving on from that, more things about CGL that I think are kind of a bit more specific to BDSM. Are you going to be attending play parties and munches? And if you are, what's the expectation there? Can you play with others? Can you not? Is there a protocol involved? Blah, blah, blah. So that's something to talk about. Do you want to use titles?
Yeah.
Which I think
what are those titles going to be?
Yeah. And do those titles change in public? What is this sort of low protocol version of titles? That's important to have as well, because you can't be walking around calling it, hey, mummy this, mummy that at the grocery store. Talk about that. How's that going to look like in real life?
How will you keep track of all these things? Yep. Yeah. So some people actually type out, like, I mean, I would like that. I feel like Lace, you would like that too, since we type out everything on Google Docs. Like,
we do, yeah.
We would just like some physical way of keeping track of it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be your contract, like this huge thing. It could just be like
a little graphic of like rules, I like the little rule cards that sometimes people make, the little pictures, and it's cutesy and it's got all the rules on it in case you're having a bit of a mental blank day and you can't remember what you're allowed to and what not allowed to do.
Yes, I would need that. I got in trouble a lot for being like, wait, but I thought we said this. So my brain just does not work with, you're supposed to be doing that because it'll just make stuff up.
Pretty sure my rule is eat lots of ice cream at least 3 times a day.
Okay, I'm not that bad. I'm not how can you say bad, but it's just certain things that I'm like, oh, I thought I didn't have to do that. And what would you do if a rule isn't working? How would you renegotiate that, or what does that look like?
And as a CG, are you going to be offended if a little says to you, this rule sucks, I can't do it? Or they routinely don't do the rule, they don't stick to the rule, and you go, well, I need to buckle down harder? Or can we talk about this as it's actually working?
Yeah, exactly. Is this a rule that's actually needed? How do you cope if your partner isn't able to access their own headspace and you need them to, or you feel that it's frustrating and negatively impacting them? How do you deal with that? What can you do to help them get into their headspace or talk about it? And this directly ties into the vanilla aspect of, okay, well, if I'm not going to be kinky, what can we do together as vanilla couple to still have fun? Yes, I love that. Good point. Because yes, we are also vanilla, and we're like, we should also be doing other things. We can't just have our life be kink. As much as it would be cool, it would also be exhausting. It would be really unhealthy, not realistic. So then we've also got, are they considering other partners while you're vetting? That's really important to set up the expectation. Like, we just had the situation where, you know, someone thought that they were the primary person being vetted, but there was another person being vetted as well. And that expectation wasn't really clear. And we'll talk more about this when we talk about poly, because I would like to learn more about poly and to understand that better. And I think we need to do a little bit of hunting to find somebody or some people who are not experts, but, you know, who have relevant experience in this to come in and talk to us about poly and how it works. And well, I'm in a poly dynamic right now. Are you? Yeah. So the person that I'm seeing is married, and their wife has a daddy. And then I am his partner. Well, there you go. That's changed from a fortnight ago. Well, we're still ironing out details, but as of right now, we've like played together, and you know, sexually as well as just kinky play. So yes, that's kind of snazzy. I didn't know that. Yeah, how exciting! Cool. I hope they're not listening to this, but they probably will be. Hi, fam. Cool. Yeah, so then moving on to sexual relationship preferences very smoothly. So are you monogamous? Now this doesn't, just to preface, CGL doesn't have to be sexual. No. And you don't need to include sexuality into your relationship with CGL to make it valid. Yes, and so we've said, are you asexual? Like, is sex not something that you're interested? Then there's other aspects or sexualities on that spectrum, like demisexuality and aromantic people. And then, are they married? Which obviously applies to my case. And is their partner aware? So, like, obviously this person's aware, but we're all in a kink chat together where we can just have a chat about things and yeah, that kind of stuff. Then we've got some vanilla things as well.
Which we kind of touched on already, which is like...
Yeah, can't be kinky all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you want children? What's your ideal situation in X years? What are your career goals? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, wrapping up.
That's kind of everything, I think.
Yeah. So do you want to quickly chat about what you look for, or should we just wrap up and we can address that in the next sort of episode?
No, let's talk about it now. So we've talked about sort of generally what we think and what we've isolated and what we've asked our friends. We've figured out, you know, what their things are. So when we're looking at red flags, this is what I look for personally. So I look for compatibility issues. I look for inconsistencies, if a person cannot be consistent with what they're saying. I look for microaggressions, so exclusive language, gender jokes, casual use of slurs, etc. These things tell me a lot about the person, and I'm big on personality, being pansexual. If a person's personality turns me off in any way, that's it. That's the end of it. Doesn't matter how pretty they are or how good they are in bed. If their personality doesn't match with me, game over. And that's just for any kind of platonic or not. Like, that's everything for me. But for kink specific things, I want to know that they've got an understanding of BDSM terms, and if they don't, are they interested to learn and to listen? If they're not, red flag. For positive traits, I look for previous experience and openness to discuss previous history, a lining up of our values, similar interests, someone who doesn't shy away from direct questions. I absolutely will not accept anybody who wants to be called by a caregiver title straight away.
Yeah.
I actually asked somebody who's really close to me and to you as well about what their red flags were, and they had a list that was very, very similar to mine. But they actually had 2 points that I thought were really valid. Well, not valid, but like things that I hadn't thought about that I definitely want to add to my list. They ask what their thoughts are on consideration versus ownership and a clear distinction between the two, which I think is so valuable. But this is another cool one. She said, I want to know 5 non-sexual things they bring to a scene. I'm looking for answers like first aid kit, safety shears, water, food, etc. And I'm like, I love that. It's thinking outside of the immediate gratification of that moment and the play and looking generally at the situation. And that for me sort of sums up exactly what I'm looking for as well, is somebody who's going to have a good general scope of what's going on. And is competent enough to do that. So those are the things that I'm looking for. What about you?
I look for a sense of humor, if we have similar hobbies, what they're like with their family and friends. I just remembered again my experience with dating the criminal, and like one of those things that made my gut kind of go, ooh, just how they treat other people. So I remember they were paying for, like, we went to a store together and they were paying for something, and then they got a phone call and they just threw the money on the counter and walked away. Like, I know. And myself and the person, the cashier, kind of looked at each other, and I apologized and took the money out because it was just a wad of cash that they'd thrown there. And so I took out the appropriate amount and gave it to them. And then, like, so yeah, he'd walked away. And so, like, I had to, like, run after him to give him, you know, his change. And I was like, that's not okay. Like, that's really dismissive and just rude. Anyway, and then if they're an animal lover, you know, if they genuinely love their animals, that's important to me.
As we found out.
How they respond when I bring an issue to them, even if it's something small, because, you know, if I can't trust you, like, me bringing something small to you is basically testing the waters to see how you would react to something big. So if they are extremely dismissive of something small, then I'm not going to trust them with something that I think is important. even if it's just to acknowledge it, you know, that's important to me, instead of being like, why are you so worried about that? Who cares? Because, like, my anxiety is huge and my OCD is huge, and I don't know why the hell I'm worried about it. I just am, because that's how my brain works.
The answer to that question is who cares? The answer is I care. And that's what matters.
Yeah. So true. The size of their ego, again, going back to the criminal, was just like, I'm not going to lock my car because no one would rob me because they know who I am and my reputation. And I was like, oh, okay, wow. Previous, relationships and why they ended, what their major kinks are. You know, I need someone with a little bit of a sadistic streak, but not too much. I'm a baby masochist, not a, hardcore masochist. What guidelines for practicing do they subscribe to? You know, some people don't subscribe to safe, sane, and consensual, which is fair enough because they feel as though sanity is subjective. And so, you know, if someone says, you have a mental illness, you can't technically consent, you know, that takes away someone's autonomy. So they might practice RAC instead, risk-aware consensual kink. You know, and why do they subscribe to those particular guidelines, and what do those guidelines mean to them? What made them interested in kink? And one of my red flags is a know-it-all attitude, because no one can know it all. Like, honestly, we're all just learning.
We need to be able to learn and to be open to learning, because new stuff comes up all the time, and flexibility is a huge part for me of a good CG. So, and little, but yeah. Oh, good red flags. I think you're keeping yourself safe, and that is good.
Thank you. So, shall we do our sketchy sub?
Yeah, let's do the sketchy sub. So,
and then we'll do the giveaway announcement.
Yeah. So the sketchy sub that I came across was on FetLife, and this is just an example of somebody dismissing 100% anything about you and just focusing on themselves. And this made me laugh. So anyways, this person had written to somebody else, and I have their consent to talk about this. I'm not going to name names, but it's pretty funny. So the person that this person was writing to, so we'll say the sub, she has very specifically on her profile, she's submissive, and this person's approached them. Yep. Says, hi there. I see your profile says you're a sub, but maybe, I'm really hoping anyways, you'll laugh at this and think it's hilarious and might possibly be into it sometime just for the fun of it. Right there. I would have stopped reading by now, but anyway. Just wondering, if I were to swing up your way sometime, do you think you and a couple of your girlfriends would let me get naked and on my knees and jerk off as much as I can in front of Yuz for a couple of hours and strictly be your naked entertainment just to totally laugh at and make fun of, taunt, cheer on, etc. while you sit back, still going, by the way, in the same sentence, completely and fully dressed the whole time, of course, with a few drinks, and have yourselves a girls' night of fun and laughter. And most definitely, feel free to grab and hold me by the balls a lot too, smiley face. And have loads of fun teasing and laughing at me even more as Yuz make me whack myself off silly for your amusement, smiley face. I'm white, from Toronto, 6'1", brown hair, and in pretty good shape. This was the first message.
It's great. It's just wonderful. That's how I introduced myself, to others.
It's a really successful way of engaging in a safe dynamic. What I hate about this the most is that this person just rolls in, is like, I know you're a sub, but I don't know, want to top me? What you're asking for is actually a recognizable type of play. It's degradation, and it's like a humiliation play. This is not like some sort of funny, like, hey, would you mind if I sat on a sprinkler and you threw watermelons at me? Like, this isn't like an unknown...
You definitely just kink-shamed someone.
But what I mean is like, it's not an unknown type of kink. It's not like a new kind of, could maybe be interesting. Like, this is known. Humiliation and degradation play is not some secret. People know what it is. And he's just gone into a sub and said, hey, do you and I have a collection of friends want to sit down and watch me whack myself off silly? Like, you need to be accosting a mistress who is a top, who advertises that they consent and want to get involved with degradation and humiliation play. Like, know your target and approach the right people, you idiot.
Exactly.
It bothers me. I have feelings about it.
So what did this person respond? Did they respond?
I don't know. I think she just basically put them onto. She wrote about it on. She screenshotted it. She's like, "Yeah, all right," and put it on FetLife, and everyone's like, "What an absolute douche!" And apparently, he's been He's been requesting this of other people as well. And it's like
they usually just send out a mass copy paste, like anyone who,
And the thing is, if you can't find someone to do this, that's a mistress. Don't start talking to subs. The answer is, if this is something that's really important to you, pay for the service. There are sex workers who will do this job, and as long as you pay the money for it, they'll do what you ask them to do. So
exactly,
if you can't find someone willing to consent to it just as like a part of negotiation for play, then pay for it.
Exactly. But anyway, so thank you for that sketchy sub.
You're welcome.
It is time for the giveaway.
Yay!
We're so excited. All right, Lace, how do I do this? Do I just hit the button? We've got
Okay, so we're using a random winner generator where everybody who's entered by, we mentioned the ways to do that a few episodes ago, but it was like reblogging and liking our content and leaving us reviews and things like that. So we've got everybody's names compiled into a random winner generator, and it takes into consideration that some of the activities gain more entry points than others. So thank you to everybody who got involved and reached out to us. So
I'm so excited to hit the button.
Hit the button, then hit the button.
Okay. Oh, let's see. Oh, it's got all the names coming out. Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous, and it's not even me. Oh my gosh, our winner is Kit's Garden.
Yay!
So, Kit's Garden, congratulations. You have won the $50 gift card to whatever shop of your choice that sells little gear. So please get in contact with us at thecandykingdom@gmail.com, and we will discuss, where and how to claim your prize. So,
yes. So
thank
exciting.
you again to everyone. We'll have another giveaway soon.
I've got a feeling Kit's Garden was actually somebody who interacted with us on Tumblr. I don't...
yes, reblogged us.
I'm just looking it up now to double check. I'm almost positive that's where they came from. Bear with me one second. But yes, continue on. What's happening next week, Misty?
Next week, we will be continuing our vetting miniseries. We're hopeful that this will be the sort of last episode. We're going to chat a little bit about red flags, because we want to hear from you guys before we do the episode about what things you consider red flags, and we'll add them on, and we'll say, whoever tweeted at us or mentioned a red flag will say, this person considers this a red flag. So it would be nice to interact with you. And then we'll talk about, setting up a negotiation. Like, now you've done all the vetting. You've decided that this person is safe and you want to pursue a relationship with them. How do you actually negotiate your dynamic then?
And we will have the checklist and the negotiation worksheets ready to go up on the Patreon by the end of this week. So Sunday night, it'll be up and ready to go. And then once I thought this was going to be our last episode, but we got lots to talk about with vetting. Yeah. So, so we will, we will have, once we've finished this series and it's come to a close, we'll release this publicly on probably our blog, I think, most likely. So, and by the way, Kit's Garden was actually from Tumblr, so cool.
Oh, nice.
Very
well
exciting.
Done. Yay. So thanks for listening, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at The Candy Kingdom on all the social media.
So have a sweet week, and we will catch you next time, Candy Crew.
Bye.
Bye.